So there's this lovely collection of cartoons from the New Yorker magazine. Does anybody read the New Yorker? Okay. So they started in the 1920s, and there's a collection of all of their cartoons, which is fabulous, and it's available on CD. But this is 1966, and it's Publish or Perish, and if you see, it's a firing squad, and the caption is, it's Publish or Perish, and he hasn't published. Well, that's still true today, isn't it? Right? And perhaps even more so. But that's 1966. In 1975, plain language, right? We hear about plain language. I can't put it into layman's language for you. I don't know any layman's language. Right? 1989, this is the Stat family. And little boy saying 99% of those interviews said they hate carrots. And I think there's a power problem with his sample. 2 out of 3 kids can't spell cholesterol. Statistics are totally wrong 56% of the time. Again, sometimes we throw out numbers considering their evidence, but they're meaningless for the context of a family dinner in this instance. Impact. This is 1991. It's the wolves howling at the moon. My question is, are we making an impact? Right? It's 91. Access. Things start to change in 2000. So the little boy's asking his father a question, and his father says, go ask your search engine. Right? And that's 2000. And so these issues around knowledge mobilization, knowledge transfer, knowledge exchange, and all of that have been around for quite some time. Except that we're now getting to a point, and there's a whole philosophical debate around this. I mean, Pierre Teilhard de Chardin in the 1940s predicted the internet. He called it the noosphere. He called it the next form of human evolution, right? That it wouldn't be a physical evolution. It would be a conceptual evolution where all of our brains would be tied to one another. But Richard Heinberg, who's an ecologist, and in this article of How Do You Like the Collapse So Far, said that taking in traumatic information and transforming it into life-affirming action may be the most advanced and spiritual practice of our time. And that's essentially the core of what knowledge mobilization in many ways is about, is how do we take all of this, what we know, and actually turn it into things that are meaningful. So I also think that there's a context of that this has been around for a long time. Canada was one of the signatories to the UN Universal Declaration of Human Rights 61 years ago. Article 27, which follows the right to education, Article 27 says that everyone has the right to freely participate in the cultural life of the community, to enjoy the arts, and to share in scientific advancement and its benefits. Now, if you don't have access to what we know from the production of scientific method and practice, you can't share in its benefits, and hence we're not fulfilling Article 27 of the Declaration of Human Rights. So, just as a model, and this is part of what David and I were talking about in terms of some context, as someone who engages in knowledge mobilization as a practice, and I do it for profit, I just had a client go bankrupt, so sometimes less than not. This is kind of my formal education path, right? I'm still in a PhD in population health, which is a complex grouping looking at the social determinants of health. I started a PhD in public policy here at Carleton, but family issues took me in a different direction. I have an MA in sociology, Bachelor of Science in sociology and biochemistry, and I did a CEGEP diploma in pure and applied science. So I have a diverse background in terms of education. I didn't just stick with history or English or biology. And that's part of what our discussion has come up, is that a lot of the people that work in knowledge mobilization tend to they don't follow normal academic career paths.
He means right? We're not normal.
We're not normal. Well, we don't follow one particular normality. Here's a set of other courses that I've been involved in, and this is just a sampling, right? I engage in professional development all of the time, but they include, the issues around value in academic writing, implementation of research, biostats, medical epidemiology, evidence-based practice, software, intellectual policy, economics, teaching, all of these kind of things. Right? It's really about how do we transform what it is that we know into what we do. So what's my career path look like? Well, I started a company called Knowledge Mobilization Works, and I don't use president or CEO, I just use director. And anybody that has a stake in the company is a director. From 2005 to 2007, I was a knowledge exchange specialist at the research center at CHIO, at the Provincial Center of Child and Youth Mental Health. From 2002 to 2005, I had the position of Deputy Director of Knowledge Products and Mobilization at SSHRC. Before that, from 98 to 2002, I had various program and policy officer jobs at SSHRC that included, helping develop the CURA program, the Community University Research Alliance program, looked at program integration, worked in the VP's office. So I had a very broad scope of kind of what was happening in research. And from 90 to 98, I had various positions typical of early career, right? I had various positions in research, business, and NGOs. And then there's a set of additional experience that actually helps with the knowledge mobilization part. I've given literally hundreds of presentations, from audiences as small as 6 people in a room to I gave a presentation to 20,000 people at the Orleans Superdome, New Orleans Superdome last year. I do volunteer work in community, institutional, academic settings and events, travel extensively, and I write a little bit about this, but mostly my communication is in forms other than text because lots of people learn in ways other than reading. I'm one of them. And so here's how the company got created. The idea really developed out of people asking me to do technical consulting around knowledge transfer, knowledge exchange, knowledge mobilization. And literally there were dozens and dozens of organizations asking to do this, and it was outside the context of where I was working. So I resigned from CHIO at the end of 2006, started the company in 2007, spent the first quarter really developing a plan. First year I had 17 clients, last year I had 54. And this year, we're growing our client list, but what we're doing is modifying our plan to include workshops, a conference, and we do more technical consulting, even around research, related to issues around power, not power as in political, but power in terms of statistical. And we're now thinking about turning knowledge mobilization works into a membership roundtable, which is a conversation we have to have.
Apparently I need to sign somewhere.
So who's our clientele? My assumption when I started that my clientele would be mostly the universities, because I had been working with universities at SSHRC and I had been working with research hospitals when I was at CHIO. I was dead wrong. In fact, it's changing now from when I started, but when I started there was no interest in putting money into knowledge mobilization. There was interested in talking about it, but not really in doing the work. And so that's starting to change now. And part of it, SSHRC is playing a role in that, CIHR is playing a role in that, and actually supporting the programs that do it. Most of my clients are intermediaries. They are people who are professional associations, national and international practice organizations, agencies of provincial and federal government, less the departments and more the agencies. Agencies tend to be focused on a particular mandate. And so they tend to be boundary spanners between research and practice, and are looking to enhance their access to research and their abilities. And this gives you, this is just a list of clients, but it gives you a range. A lot of them are health and education, which actually makes sense, because health and education are the 2 biggest budget items in Canada in terms of tax dollars, right? But they include, small groups like Father Involvement Research Alliance. They include Carleton University, foundations. This is, a health association, various conferences, right? The Alzheimer's Society. It's just a range.